In the quiet chambers of your mind, where imagination weaves reality, there lies a simple yet profound phrase, a key capable of unlocking the vaults of abundance. This one thing is not a mere collection of words, but a declaration of being. I am wealthy. Consider the story of a man who, amidst financial turmoil, chose to embody this truth. Each night as sleep beckoned, he whispered to himself, I am wealthy, allowing the feeling of prosperity to envelop him. He didn't plead or yearn, he simply assumed the state of wealth. In time, opportunities emerged, debts dissolved, and his external world reshaped to mirror his internal conviction. This practice echoes the wisdom found in Mark 11:24. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them and ye shall have them. It's not about beseeching the heavens, but about resting in the assurance that your desires are already fulfilled. Yet doubts may arise, whispering tales of unworthiness or impossibility. Recognize these as mere shadows of past conditioning. Gently return to your affirmation, I am wealthy, and let the feeling of abundance permeate your being. It's not the repetition of words that holds power, but the emotional resonance they evoke. A woman once shared how she transformed her financial landscape through this method. Facing mounting bills and dwindling hope, she chose to dwell in the state of affluence. She imagined the joy of financial freedom, felt the relief as if it were real, and consistently affirmed her wealth. Soon unexpected income streams appeared, and her monetary struggles became a distant memory. Remember, the world outside is but a reflection of the world within. By embodying the feeling of wealth, you set the stage for its manifestation. As you lay down to rest, let the phrase, I am wealthy, be the lullaby that guides you into the realm where all things are possible. Trust in the unseen, and watch as the currents of abundance flow effortlessly into your life. It will feel unnatural at first to speak wealth into being when your hands are still empty, to say I am prosperous when your bills are unpaid, to whisper money flows easily to me when you feel frozen in lack. But the moment you dare to claim it not as a hope, but as a fact, something quiet begins to shift beneath the surface. Not in the world, in you. The old self, the one who strained, worried, pleaded, begins to dissolve like mist in the morning light, and in its place a new identity emerges, one who trusts before the evidence. You don't need to fake confidence. You only need to sink into the feeling of already being cared for. That's what the one thing does. It doesn't manipulate reality. It restores your position in the kingdom. Because what you truly seek isn't money. It's the relief of knowing you are provided for. Security, ease, freedom. And when you claim I already have, you grant yourself permission to feel those things now, even if your environment disagrees, especially then, because that's when it matters most. There is a woman who once practiced this. Each morning she said aloud, money loves me. It comes when I rest. It shows up when I least expect it. At first her voice trembled. Her mind doubted. The bills still piled up, but she kept going. Not like a soldier, but like a mother comforting her inner child. Gentle, soothing, persistent. She lit a candle. She played soft music. She made it a ritual. She didn't do it to get money. She did it to remember who she was. And something strange happened. Unexpected refunds. A side project from months ago finally paid out. Even her friends began handing her gifts for no reason at all. It wasn't coincidence. It was resonance. Her outer world could finally reflect her inner one. That is the law. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. This isn't about repeating a phrase until you're blue in the face. It's about saying it once, and sinking into the knowing. Rest in the sentence like a hammock. Don't try to hold the thought still, let the thought hold you. The words are not magic. You are the operant power. So speak, not with force, but with faith, with softness, with surrender, with that sacred blend of courage and peace that says, I am already the one I've been waiting to become. Even in your moments of doubt, even when the silence stretches longer than you hoped, remember this is not failure. It's integration. The soil must sit in stillness before the seed breaks through. Some days you will feel full of light. Some days you won't. That's okay. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be real. To choose again and again to return to the state of already having. Not as a performance, as a truth. That's when money moves. Not to those who chase it, but to those who embody it. To those who open the door inward and whisper, you're welcome here. And so it comes. Not as thunder, but as a whisper. Not always in the way you planned, but always in the way that affirms who you've become. So say it, softly, fully. I already have. Let that be your song in the silence. let it carry you, let it become you. There is a rhythm to abundance. Not a march, not a race, but a gentle tide that carries those who no longer strive. You begin to feel it when you stop trying to control and start allowing. This one phrase, I am wealthy, it is not meant to force money toward you. It's not a battering ram, it is a key, and the door it opens is inward. You're not saying it to get rich, you're saying it to return home to your natural identity, the child of a limitless source. The mind may resist. It wants results. It wants evidence. It asks, where is it? But the deeper self does not ask. It knows. It rests. And so the work is not in chasing, but in relaxing into the truth. There was a woman I once knew, a nurse, working long nights, exhausted, carrying guilt for barely having enough to care for her daughter. She felt broken by years of giving and receiving so little. But one night, after reading these words, something shifted. She stood alone in the quiet of a kitchen and whispered, I am wealthy, not loud, not dramatic. She simply said it and let herself feel, not the money, but the freedom. She imagined walking through a grocery store and not checking her balance. She imagined saying yes to her daughter without worry. That moment, that softness, became her new seed. And within 3 months, she was offered a private caregiving position by a family who valued her deeply, paid her double, and gave her time to be home. Her life didn't just change, she changed. You see, money didn't rush in because she said the right words. It came because she shifted the atmosphere within her. A good man, out of the good treasure of his heart, bringeth forth that which is good. Luke 6:45. Your heart is the soil. The words you plant are seeds. But it is the feeling, the moisture, the warmth, that makes them grow. So if you say, I am wealthy, from panic, it bears no fruit. But if you say it gently, from stillness, and let it settle into your chest like the hush before dawn, then you've moved into creative power. The outer may take time to rearrange, but that's not your concern. Your only task is to dwell in the end, to relax into the fulfilled state, to feel the joy now, not when the bank account changes, not when the world claps for you. Now, the mind may call it delusion, but the spirit calls it faith. And what is faith? But the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You won't need to force doors open. You won't need to prove your worth. Life becomes generous toward those who are generous within themselves. You will find money begins to appear in ways you didn't plan. Unexpected refunds, invitations, ideas, partnerships, inspiration. Why? Because you are now open. Because you've made peace with your worthiness. Say it again, softly, not as a technique, but as a return. I am wealthy, not just financially, wealthy in breath, wealthy in love, wealthy in time, in peace, in space to create. Let the world spin fast. You move in stillness. Let others measure their value by numbers. You rest in the knowing that your being is the source of all supply. You are not required to be perfect. You are not behind. You are waking up. And each time you say this one phrase from the heart, not the lips, you light a candle within the subconscious. Soon that light will guide your every step, and you won't even realize how far you've come, because abundance never feels like striving. It feels like returning. And so you rest, and you rise. When the mind begins to question, as it always does, but where is it? Why hasn't it arrived yet? Remind yourself that the oak takes time to rise from the acorn, but it never doubts the law. It simply grows. Silently, surely, unseen at first, but always, always inevitable. The wealth is not coming. It is already yours. The moment you feel it, the moment you dwell in the state of possession, the outer must conform. Think of how easily a child plays pretend. A cardboard box becomes a castle, and for a while it is a castle. There is no resistance in her world, no arguing with appearances, only immersion. And the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. You must return to this playful ease. When you say, I am wealthy, do not say it to convince the universe. Say it to remind yourself who you are, and speak it in stillness, not in panic. For only a relaxed soul can receive. A clenched hand cannot hold a blessing. Loosen your grip, rest your shoulders, allow. A man once wrote me from Brazil. He had been living paycheck to paycheck, burdened by debt and swallowed by fear. But something in him shifted after listening to these teachings. He stopped chasing, stopped begging. He began to relax each morning and simply speak the truth of his being. I am wealthy. Then he would lie still, eyes closed, and imagine the joy of paying every bill with ease, of giving to others without concern, of feeling free. Within weeks, a former client reached out unexpectedly, offering a new contract. Then another. His income tripled. But more importantly, he no longer walked through life clenched. He had become a relaxed receiver. You are not meant to struggle your way to abundance. You are meant to open to it. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Not be anxious, not be busy. Be still and know. This knowing is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, but unshakable. Sometimes the body still trembles with old fear. The thoughts echo with voices of lack, perhaps passed down from generations. That's okay. You don't need to fight them. Just breathe. Just return, over and over, back to the simple phrase, I am wealthy, not because it's a magic spell, but because it aligns your identity with truth. And identity is the seed of all creation. The outer world bends to the image you carry of yourself, always, unfailingly. So tend to that image like a sacred flame. Guard it, feed it with feeling, surround it with silence. What you claim inwardly with feeling must appear outwardly with form. Let others rush and stress and chase. Let them measure success by effort and hours in external approval. You will move differently, softly, quietly, powerfully. You will walk in the knowing that you already are, and that knowing will be enough. Let your new wealth consciousness be gentle. Let it infuse your breathing. Let it settle into your dreams. Let it carry you through each day, not with noise, but with a steady hum beneath every moment. And if you ever forget, if the world shakes you, if doubt returns, don't be alarmed. Simply pause, place your hand on your heart, and say it again, not to fix, but to remember. I am wealthy, because you are, and you always were. And when the old voice returns, the one that scoffs, that doubts, that tells you you're being foolish to believe in something so invisible, you do not argue. You nod, gently, because you remember what Neville taught: you cannot fight the shadow with more shadows, you shine. You don't resist the doubt, you outgrow it. A man once shared that he began speaking to money as if it were alive. He would whisper softly, I know you're looking for me, I know we belong together, and I'm no longer running from you. It felt silly at first, uncomfortable, even childish, but something in him softened. The hardness around his heart, the walls he'd built from years of shame and striving, they began to dissolve. He said within 3 weeks his freelance inbox went from silence to abundance. 1 email, then 3, then 10. Projects he didn't chase, clients who just stumbled on his old website, payments he had long given up on suddenly arriving. He didn't change his work, he changed his welcome, because the moment he stopped worshipping struggle, ease had room to enter. That's the thing about prosperity. It doesn't bloom in clenched fists. It waits patiently for an invitation into a body that can receive it. You've been told you must hustle harder, grind longer, push past your limits, but manifestation doesn't come through tension. It comes through alignment. Neville said, you rise to a state by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and that feeling, it's gentle. It's not a roar, it's a whisper. You don't summon it with panic. You drift into it like you would a dream before sleep. Feel yourself already there, walking through the world with a loosened jaw, a calm pulse, a deep-rooted certainty that money isn't missing. It's responding. You're not trying to manifest anymore. You're remembering that you already have. And each time your mind gets noisy, you come back to the phrase, that one thing. Say it like a lullaby to your nervous system. Say it until your cells hum with peace. Wealth finds me because I am already its home. Money flows to the calm and I am still. I do not chase. I allow. Choose whatever phrase feels like a warm blanket on your spirit. Make it yours. Let it carry you when doubt is loud and patience is thin. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. Let that be your resting place. Not a place of waiting, but a place of having. Even if nothing seems to move, trust that something is rearranging. It is written in silence before it's seen in sound. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you are meant to be, learning how to become the one who receives with ease what they once begged for. And the beauty, you never have to earn it again. You just have to allow it, and say the one thing until it becomes the only thing you know. There is a subtle shift that happens when you stop asking how, and start knowing it is. This knowing isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to prove anything. It arrives like a quiet warmth in your chest, a softness in your breath as you move through the same world, but from a completely different center. You might still see the unpaid bills. You may still check the bank balance and feel that momentary ache, but the ache doesn't define you anymore, because something deeper whispers, I am no longer the one who waits. I am the one who already receives. And it's not fantasy. It's not delusion. It's divine logic, a truth deeper than circumstance. A woman once shared how she lost everything: her marriage, her job, her savings. She was living in a small guest room with her daughter, feeling forgotten by the world. She said, I was so used to striving. I didn't know how to just rest. But one night in the stillness, after crying herself to sleep, she spoke out loud. Thank you for the money that flows to me now. Thank you for the life I already live in spirit. Thank you for reminding me who I really am. She said she didn't even believe it at first, but she said it anyway. Each night, as if planting seeds in soil too dry to touch. 3 months later, she was offered a remote role, through a friend of a friend, doing the work she used to dream of, but never felt ready for. The salary, double her last one. The hours, half. And the company, based in a country she had always wanted to visit. It wasn't a miracle. It was alignment catching up to her belief. Because what you thank in advance, you prepare your heart to hold. Neville said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and live in that assumption as though it were true. And from that state you no longer question when. You simply embody now. When you speak your phrase, your one thing, you're not casting a spell, you're breaking one. The spell that said money only comes with pain. The lie that taught you to suffer for every dollar. The illusion that you were separate from abundance. You're not, you are the opening, the passageway, the current that turns thought into form. And it's safe now to let it be easy. Before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. You see, it's already yours. The moment the desire was born, the provision was set in motion. Your only task is to hold the tone, to rest in the rhythm of already, to breathe like it's done, to walk like it's here. Let the words become a song in your body. Let them rinse away every remnant of fear. Speak them not to change your reality, but to remember you already did. Money does not come to the anxious hand. It comes to the soul that remembers it was never without. So tonight, as you lay your head to rest, don't pray from desperation. Don't ask with trembling. Smile and whisper the one thing, whatever it is for you. Make it sacred. Make it yours. Make it the sound your heart returns to when the noise of the world gets too loud. And then wait for the echo. Because money is not a stranger. It is an old friend finally finding its way back home. The moment you say, I already am, something begins to melt. Tension loosens its grip. You no longer hold your breath waiting for the breakthrough. Instead, you become the breakthrough. That's the shift no one talks about. The ease that comes when you stop treating life like a negotiation and start treating it like a song you already know the words to. You aren't begging for abundance. You're remembering that you are its source. Money is not a stranger. It's not a test. It's not a reward for hard labor or proof of moral goodness. It's simply energy, responding to the vibration you consistently embody. And here's what most people miss. It's not about feeling rich in a moment of hype. It's not about hyping yourself up with affirmations until you're exhausted and doubting again. It's about staying still long enough for the new state to take root. Imagine a tree planted in the soil of I already am. If you dig it up every day to check its roots, it withers. But if you trust the seed, water it with peace, let the sun of your knowing rest on it quietly, it grows without your help. That's how states work. You don't force your way into them. You relax into them. That's the secret. There is no earning, no striving, no chasing in the kingdom within. It's all about rest. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Psalm 23:2. Still waters don't fight their current. They reflect, they receive, and so must you. This is where so many falter. They try to force the new story while secretly clinging to the old one. They affirm abundance but embody lack. They visualize wealth but carry shame. Not because they are broken, but because they have not yet allowed themselves to rest into the new identity. And it's not their fault. The world trains us to believe more effort equals more success. But this is a different realm. The laws here respond not to struggle, but to surrender. The more you soften into the version of you who already have, the more the outer reflects the inner. You do not need to fix your mind. You only need to occupy a new state. One where you are enough, where you are chosen, where you are already home. There's a man who shared his story. He'd been broke, in debt, applying for job after job. One night he sat in silence and whispered, I am successful. But this time he didn't say it to get something. He said it to let go, and he wept, not out of sadness, but because for the first time he believed it. He stopped applying. He stopped pushing. He started showing up differently, more calm, more centered, more sure. Within days, an old contact reached out. A position opened unexpectedly. The offer was more than he ever imagined, not because of the words, but because of the relaxation into truth. This is what you must do. Speak not to demand. Speak to align. You're not casting a spell on the world. You're lifting the veil within yourself. And behind that veil is everything. Every dollar, every connection, every idea. Waiting for you to say the one thing and mean it. I already am. Let the tension go. Let the timing go. Let the control go. Breathe deeply into the quiet knowing that it's already done. Let the seed settle. the tree will grow, the fruit will come, and when it does, you'll look back and realize you didn't force it, you became it. There is a difference between asking and assuming. One begs, the other knows. When you say I am wealthy, you're not asking the world to agree, you're informing it of what already is. And yet, there will be days when the feeling wavers. You'll look at bills stacked on the table and the mind will whisper, this is foolish. But those are the sacred moments. Not when it's easy, but when it's tested. When doubt rises, when results lag, when others around you speak of lack, that is your opportunity to remain still, to abide in the truth even when appearances shout the opposite. That is where the transformation happens. Not on mountaintops, but in kitchens and parking lots and quiet evenings alone. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to return. Return to the phrase. Return to the inner state. Let it become your home. There was a man who ran a small shop, barely enough foot traffic, barely enough to cover rent. He used to recite affirmations like a checklist, anxiously hoping one would work, but he didn't believe. Until one afternoon, while wiping down the counter, he paused and simply breathed the words, I am wealthy. He didn't say it loudly. He didn't chant. He let the feeling rise, not of having stacks of money, but of being taken care of being supported. Within the week, a regular customer offered to feature him in a local magazine. Exposure came. Traffic followed. But more than that, he no longer needed the proof. He knew who he was. This is the secret. Money does not respond to panic. It responds to peace. You may think peace comes after the manifestation, but peace is the power that causes it. When you say I am wealthy, you must let the phrase sink deeper than your thoughts. Let it bypass the noise and drift down into the silence beneath. There it begins to grow. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Stillness is not inaction. It is the quiet certainty that nothing is missing, that you don't need to rush, that you don't need to earn love through struggle, that your imagination, the divine spark within you, is the source of all things, and that source knows no lack. You don't have to say the phrase with clenched fists or desperate hopes. Let it be gentle, a whisper on your pillow, a breath in the shower, a silent agreement with your reflection in the mirror. Let your body feel it, how you would walk, how you would eat, how you would speak if you already had all you desired. And if you stumble, if one day you feel poor, forgotten, small, that's all right. Don't punish yourself. Close your eyes, place your hand on your chest, and remind yourself this too is part of it. No story is perfect. No journey is clean, but every time you return to the knowing, you bend reality toward your inner truth, not by force, not by effort, but by gentle remembrance. There is nothing to prove, nothing to push, just a quiet flame to tend again and again. That flame is your imagination, and that flame is God. But here is where most fall short. Not in speaking the phrase, but in failing to feel its truth. To say I am wealthy without embodying wealth is like planting a seed in dry sand. It may appear to be effort, but the soil is barren of belief. You must feel it, not forcefully, not with strain, but softly, gently, the way you would feel the warmth of a sunbeam resting on your skin. No tension, just trust. This is not about convincing the outer world. It is about relaxing into the inner one, where all things are born. There is no need to strive, for striving implies it is not already yours. Let go of the need to get, and instead rest in the knowing that you have. You do not become rich by chasing riches. You become rich by being rich, in spirit, in imagination, in identity. The world then follows. A young artist once told me he used this phrase like a balm. Every morning before the doubt could creep in, he would sit at the edge of his bed and whisper, I am wealthy, not as a wish but as a recognition. At first it felt like a lie, but over time something changed. His spine sat straighter. His thoughts grew more generous. Commissions began to arrive. A larger studio space opened. His world, once painted in shades of scarcity, was now lined with gold. Why? Because he became the version of himself who already had. Let the weak say I am strong, says Joel 3:10. It does not say let the strong say it. It is the act of declaring, despite appearances, that births the new reality. So when your bank balance looks low, when bills pile high, when your mind tempts you with worry or shame, return to stillness, breathe, and say it softly. Surely, I am wealthy. Then do nothing. Do not rush to figure out how it will come. That is not your task. Your task is being, not begging. Your only job is to rest in the state of the wish fulfilled. It may come through a new idea, a call, a friend, a shift, or a miracle, but it will come, for the world must mirror your conviction. It has no choice. Now imagine your future self walking into a beautiful home, not one you wish for, but one you know is yours. Feel your feet on the floor. Touch the furniture. Look out the windows. There is no striving here. There is peace. It is done. This is how you accelerate the manifestation, not by hurrying, but by surrendering. And if you fall out of the state, as all do from time to time, forgive yourself quickly. Don't dwell in failure. Return to your center. Breathe it in again. I am wealthy, as natural as your name, as sure as your heartbeat. This is the secret. Not action, not hustle, not fixing, but feeling. Let the phrase become your melody. Let it be your inner climate. Let it sink beneath the surface of thought and settle into your bones. Because once you believe it, without effort, you will see it, without delay. There is a moment subtle, soft, when you stop asking when it will happen, and start trusting that it already has. This moment is not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It arrives in stillness, like a knowing that washes over your chest and settles into your breath. You catch yourself smiling, not because something changed out there, but because something changed in here. You no longer feel separate from the life you want. You're not peering through a window anymore, wishing for the warmth inside. You're in it, and that is when the world begins to bend. A woman once wrote in a letter that she had been repeating a simple phrase for weeks: I live in the flow of generosity. She had no evidence, no raise, no job offer, only bills, tightness, a history of not enough. But every time her mind wandered toward fear, she gently led it back, like a mother guiding a child home. And then, the unexpected. Her neighbor gifted her a painting she had admired in passing. An old friend sent money, apologizing for a debt she had forgotten. She found a discount code for the exact groceries she couldn't afford the day before. None of it was grand, none of it was staged, but each moment whispered the same thing: you're not alone in this. The flow heard you. This is what people miss when they speak affirmations without feeling them. They try to force the river instead of becoming the stream. You cannot trick the law. You cannot bypass the feeling. Neville said you must enter the state and abide there. You live in the assumption. You rest in the knowing, not for the sake of the thing, but because you finally remembered who you are. Not a beggar, not a victim of luck, but the operant power, the image and likeness of God, with the ability to imagine and make real. Ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find. Matthew 7:7. But the asking must be done with the heart, not with desperation, but with faith. Faith that doesn't tremble, faith that doesn't check the clock, faith that walks like it already has. And if your current world seems to contradict that, you bless it anyway, because what you're seeing now is just a shadow, a fading echo of an old vibration. Let it pass. Let it go the way of all things that no longer belong to the new you, the you who expects kindness, the you who radiates enoughness, the you who speaks one thing and watches money run to greet it like an old friend. Even when doubt whispers, even when fear stirs, return to your phrase. Say it slowly, say it like honey on your tongue, say it until it becomes you, because that's all this has ever been. Not about changing the world, but about changing the one who sees it. Let the outside catch up. Your work is inside, and the one thing you say, it becomes the life you live. The whisper becomes rhythm. You don't just say it now, you live it. Each breath affirms, I am not chasing abundance, I am radiating it. There is no strain in this place, no urgency in the soul that knows its supply. You are no longer trying to convince the world to give to you. You are remembering that the world already has. You've made space inside yourself, space for wealth to rest. And money, like everything else in this universe, flows toward rest, not laziness, not indifference, but rest, the deep knowing that says, it is done. That one sentence, simple as it is, shifts everything. It is not about the words, it's about the energy behind them. A man once shared that every night before bed, he would place his hand on his chest and say, I am already provided for. At first he felt silly. It seemed hollow, performative. But over time something softened. His mind stopped arguing. His body stopped resisting. And in the space of that stillness, things began to move. He was offered freelance work he never applied for. A refund he forgot about arrived in his mailbox. His rent was lowered without asking. He didn't force these things into being. He simply stopped fighting lack. He became a vessel for plenty. This is the essence of creation. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. To the anxious mind, stillness feels unsafe. But to the awakened soul, it is a return to origin. You are not becoming rich. You are remembering your wealth. And in remembering, you open the door. You invite the unseen currents of prosperity to rush toward you like wind filling an open sail. Your one thing could be different. For some, it's everything I touch turns to gold. For others, it always works out for me, or money is drawn to me because I'm free. It doesn't matter what you say. What matters is that it feels real when you say it, that it anchors you in the version of you who already knows, not hopes, not pleads, knows. You may have moments where doubt creeps in again, where the old voice returns, telling you it's not working, it's too late, you're not enough. That voice is not your enemy. It is the echo of a past self who simply hasn't caught up to the present. Don't fight it. Just hold the new sentence like a flame. Let it burn gently in your heart. This is the practice, not perfection, but persistence. A daily moment-to-moment return to the feeling of already having, because the world will always reflect who you are being. And if you are being the one who is calm, certain, and already cared for, the world has no choice but to respond. This is not wishful thinking. This is law, impersonal, unbreakable, creative law. Whatever you say with feeling, you sow into the field of reality. So say it now. Say it softly. Say it in your body. Say it in your silence. And then, relax. Let the seed root. Let the energy carry it forward. Because when the feeling is planted deeply enough, the harvest is inevitable. It isn't the words that hold the power. It's the feeling behind them. You could say, I am wealthy 100 times a day, but if each time your heart tightens, if your chest sinks, if you silently add, but I'm not, then the outer world reflects that inner conflict. But if just once you feel it, truly feel it, as though you've stepped into the life you long for and it welcomes you like an old friend, that single moment plants more than a seed. It plants certainty, and certainty does not beg. It becomes, a woman wrote in one day. She said she'd repeated affirmations for years with no real shift. Money came in but slipped through her fingers. Fear chased her even in her sleep, until she stopped trying to make money come and instead let herself be. I didn't need more, she said. I just needed to know that I already had it. She changed nothing on the outside. Same job, same income. But her inner world softened. She bought herself fresh flowers, just one stem at a time. She dressed in a way that made her feel like the future version of herself. She sat in stillness and breathed into the statement, I am cared for. That was her phrase. Not desperate, not chasing, just cared for. 2 months later, she was offered a position 3 times her pay, not because she pushed, because she relaxed into who she already was. That is the real one thing you must say, not just to your mind, but to your nervous system, to your subconscious, to your very breath. I already am, not I will be, not I hope to be, I already am. This isn't magic in the way most understand it. It's deeper than tricks or tips. It's the rearrangement of identity, and money responds to identity like a river to gravity. It flows where the channel is clear. If you believe money is hard, it becomes so. If you believe money arrives easily, gently, lovingly, it finds its way to you through channels the logical mind could never predict. You do not need to control the path. You only need to align with the end. In Matthew 6:8 it says, your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. What does that mean? It means your higher self, the divine imagination within you, already holds the blueprint. You don't have to micromanage the route. You only need to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Assume it in the way you stir your tea, answer your phone, press your feet to the ground in the morning. Let it become natural, not theatrical. Let it be real. It's not about pretending. It's about relaxing into truth. And here's the truth most forget. You are not manifesting wealth to prove your worth. You're manifesting it to express your natural state. You are abundance. You are value. You are ease. If the world has told you otherwise, that's all right. Forgive it. Forgive yourself. Start again. You don't need 30 days. You don't need perfect belief. You only need a moment. One honest moment of inner agreement, where the body exhales, the mind quiets, and the heart says, yes, this is who I am. You will forget. That's okay. Return. Say the phrase again, not as a chant, but as a gentle remembrance. I already am. Watch how the world begins to respond, not because you forced it, but because you finally let it in. There's a strange magic in surrender, not the kind that gives up, but the kind that gives in, to the current, to the feeling, to the unseen order already at work. When you say the phrase, whatever words feel true, you aren't calling something far away to come closer. You're allowing what's already inside you to be known, to be felt, to be honored. Because what you truly believe manifests. And the world always matches the feeling behind the words, not the volume in your voice. You can shout, I am rich, 1,000 times. But if deep within you still feel poor, it is the feeling that wins. That is why Neville said feeling is the secret. You must become the person who would say it naturally, calmly, without strain. Imagine standing at the counter, paying with ease. not pretending, but feeling. You carry the air of one who already has, not from arrogance, but from peace. A woman once wrote about how she used to dread opening bills. The envelope alone made her heart race. She would say her affirmations, but her hands would tremble. Then one day she stopped. She put her hands on her chest, breathed in and said, I am the one who is always taken care of, not to force a result, but to soothe the frightened child within her. And the next week, a refund came she had forgotten about. A friend paid back an old debt. The pressure dissolved, not because the world suddenly became generous, but because she did. She gave herself a new identity, one that felt safe in abundance. That is the shift, not needing money to show up first to feel provided for, but feeling provided for until money has no choice but to show up. According to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. You speak the phrase not as a demand, but as a declaration of identity. I am one with wealth. I am always supported. Money comes easily to me. Whatever words feel like silk in your mouth, say them like you mean them. Say them like you're coming home, not to impress, but to align. Let them fall into your subconscious like seeds. Water them with trust, not urgency, not panic. Because when you relax, you signal to your inner world, I already have it. And that is when money begins to flow, not as a reward, but as a reflection. You're no longer trying to chase the outcome. You are living the state that makes it inevitable. And when doubt whispers, as it always does, smile. It's just the old self echoing in an empty hallway. You don't need to argue with it. You don't need to prove anything. Return to the phrase, the one thing that reminds you who you are. Say it with gentleness, with conviction, with love, and the world will catch up. It always does. There comes a moment when your words begin to feel alive, no longer echoes, but electricity. You're no longer reciting, you're embodying. You say the phrase, this one thing, but now you feel its texture. You sense it swelling beneath your ribs, as if something invisible is stretching its arms inside you, making room. That's when the shift begins. Not in the bank, not in the inbox, but in you. You stop watching the door, waiting for proof, because you are the proof. You feel like someone who already has it, and so reality has no choice but to mirror it back. This is the mystery of God in man, the divine pattern hiding beneath skin and doubt. We are not here to earn what is already ours. We are here to awaken to it. A young man once told me, he started whispering a single sentence before bed. Money flows to me because I no longer resist it. That was all. He said it while brushing his teeth, folding his clothes, sinking into sleep. But for weeks, nothing. No rush, no trickle. He grew impatient, frustrated, tempted to abandon it. But something in him softened instead. He said one night, I spoke it again, but this time I meant it. Not because I saw results, but because I saw me differently. And within days he was offered a freelance opportunity he hadn't pursued. A client doubled their rate. His phone started ringing. He didn't chase. He aligned. And that is the work. Not hustle, not proof-seeking, but identity embodied. You are not a beggar at heaven's gate. You are its heir. But the heir must accept the inheritance. Not fear it, not postpone it. Accept it. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Luke 12:32. So many reject their good because they think it's too soon, too much, too fast. But what if it's just right? What if the universe has been waiting not for your effort, but for your ease? You speak this one phrase not to twist God's arm, but to untie your own, to unwind the knots of doubt and disbelief that have lived in your chest for too long. The phrase becomes your bridge, a gentle reminder of who you really are when you're not consumed by needing, when you're not grasping but trusting, when you're not watching but knowing. Let it sink into your bones. Whisper it while pouring your morning coffee. Say it in the mirror not as a tactic but as a reunion. And watch what happens when your energy shifts from convincing to remembering. You will see doors where before you saw only walls. You will see signs where before there was static. You will feel a calm certainty that says without needing words, it's on its way. And from that space the floodgates open. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped blocking it. You were never denied, only distracted, only doubting. But now, you are remembering, returning, reclaiming, and that is enough. There's a moment often quiet and unnoticed when your entire world begins to shift. Not because something has happened outside, but because you've softened on the inside. You no longer grip at the outcome. You no longer plead or push. You speak your truth once, and let it echo through the chambers of consciousness. That is the moment when things begin. It's like placing a letter into a divine mailbox, sealed not with urgency but with peace. You don't stand by the postbox asking, when will it arrive? You trust the system. You trust the sender. You trust the self. Money, like all things, is vibration responding to identity, and the identity that receives is relaxed. Not lazy, not indifferent, but still aware, ready, open. When you say I am wealthy but feel tension in your chest, your body knows you're contradicting your truth. You are still wrestling with the old man, trying to clothe him in new words. But when you whisper it from a place of acceptance, I am already abundant, not as a wish but as a remembering, then the mountains move. A woman once wrote about her turning point. After years of struggle, affirmations and exhaustion, she broke down in her kitchen, put her hands over her heart, and said one thing: God, I'm tired of chasing. Show me how to rest. In that moment, she didn't need a technique. She needed truth. And in the days that followed, unexpected money arrived. A debt was forgiven. Opportunities seemed to flow toward her, as if the universe had been waiting for her surrender. Sometimes the one thing isn't loud. It isn't even a command. It's a confession, a release, a willingness to feel as if it were already done. You may be tempted to check the mirror, to search for evidence, but the mirror does not change until the face behind it changes. And your face, your inner state, must first reflect wealth before wealth reflects back. So you speak it not for the world to hear, but for your soul to remember. I already am the one who lives in ease. I already am supported, supplied, sustained. I already am the vibration of overflow. And when you say it, let the words melt into you. Let them sink like seeds into fertile soil. Let them become part of your breath. Let the weak say, I am strong. Joel 3:10. Not because strength is earned, but because strength is remembered. And in this same way, you say, I am rich, not as fiction, but as prophecy. You call things which are not seen as though they were, and your reality obeys. But if you falter, if doubt rises, let that be part of it too. Let the fear be proof that something sacred is waking up. You don't need to fight your humanness to be divine. Each time you return to the knowing, you train your nervous system to feel safe in abundance. You rewrite your story, not in the pages of the world, but in the whispers of your consciousness. Let this one thing become your anchor, a short phrase, a gentle statement, something that makes your chest relax and your breath deepen. Say it in the morning before the world wakes. Say it at night when the body softens. Say it in silence, not to get something, but to remember who you are. You are not attracting money. You are shedding the parts of you that doubted it belonged to you. And the more relaxed you become, the faster it flows, not as a reward, but as a reflection. There's a moment, quiet but unmistakable, when you realize you're not chasing money anymore, you're remembering it. Remembering that it's not something to earn with sweat and strain and sacrifice, but something that flows from who you are. You don't have to convince it. You don't have to beg it. You don't have to hunt it down like prey. You welcome it, like sunlight through an open window. It responds to your tone, your inner atmosphere, the texture of your belief when no one else is watching. Because it's never really about money. It's about what you believe about yourself in relation to it. When you say the one thing, your phrase of faith, you're not trying to make something happen. You're letting go of the version of you that thought it couldn't. A man once told me he'd been working the same job for 15 years, underpaid, overlooked, and exhausted. He said, I thought loyalty would be enough. I thought if I just waited long enough, they'd see my value. But one night he decided to flip the story. He stopped waiting. He stopped needing permission. And he began saying every day, quietly, just to himself, I am wealthy now, and the world reflects it effortlessly. He didn't ask how. He just let it be real inside, even when the outer facts screamed otherwise. Within a month, he got an unexpected call from an old acquaintance, a startup looking for someone with exactly his background, higher pay, flexible hours, a team that celebrated his ideas. He said, it felt like the universe had been waiting for me to stop acting small. That is the power of one phrase spoken with feeling and reverence. You don't say it to make the world behave. You say it to remind yourself who you already are. And yes, there will be days when doubt comes in, when your mind whispers, but what if nothing's changing? When that happens, you don't argue with it. You soothe it. You hold it like a frightened child and gently lead it back to truth. You return to the one thing, and you say it again, not louder but deeper. The phrase doesn't need force. It needs faith. It needs you to feel its reality as you sip your coffee, as you go for a walk, as you move through your ordinary life with extraordinary awareness. According to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Not according to your effort, not according to your struggle, according to your faith. The moment you feel it, the law begins to rearrange everything. Money isn't limited. Opportunity isn't rare. The only scarcity lives in the story you've outgrown, and you're allowed to outgrow it with love. You don't need to burn bridges. You don't need to prove anything. Just close your eyes. Say the phrase again. Let it breathe through you. Feel it not as a wish but as a memory, a returning, a coming home. You are not broken, you are becoming. And every time you return to that phrase, you water the roots of your new reality. You'll know you're close when things start moving quietly in your favor. A new client, an idea you can't stop thinking about, a refund, a kind stranger, an open door. Sometimes money rushes in like a storm, sometimes it drips like rain on dry earth, but either way it's coming. Not because you earned it, but because you embodied it. And when you do, it cannot help but respond. There is a sacred stillness behind your words when you no longer say them out of need, but out of knowing. The one phrase becomes less of a wish, and more of a vibration you carry into every room. You walk differently, not with arrogance, but with the quiet certainty of someone who's seen the end and knows it's already done. Your posture changes, your energy shifts. You stop trying to fix your life, and start accepting the version of you who already lives the life you desire. You meet delays with grace, because you know delays aren't denials, just divine rearrangements. A woman wrote to me once. She had repeated her chosen phrase for 3 months straight. I am richly supported in all ways. She whispered it while cooking dinner, while folding clothes, while driving her children to school, but nothing seemed to change. Bills kept coming, her bank account didn't grow, and one night she sat in her parked car and cried. But something in her wouldn't let go, not willpower, but something softer, a quiet inner voice that whispered, "You're not wrong, you're early." And 2 weeks later a letter arrived. Her late father's estate had finally closed. Years after probate had stalled, she received more than she expected, more than she had dared to hope for. She said it felt like the money had been waiting for her to feel safe receiving it. This is what people don't talk about. It's not just about the phrase. It's about the inner shift from resistance to rest, from desperation to surrender. You say the words not to make it true, but because they already are. That's the faith the world responds to. Not the frantic kind, not the kind that clings, but the kind that lies down and rests in the presence of its answered prayer. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Psalm 23. 2 still waters, not waves, not winds, still. Money too likes stillness. It likes calm hearts. It likes open hands. It finds its way to the ones who are too aligned to chase. And when the mind screams, when you return gently to the one thing, you don't argue with the fear. You just refuse to live from it. You water your belief, not by force but by feeling. Feel what it's like to know it's working even now, behind your back, beyond your senses, in places you cannot see. Let your nervous system breathe again. Let your body unclench. You are not being tested. You are being taught to relax into abundance. It's not a test. It's a returning, a remembering. You've never been separate from supply, only distracted from the knowing. So come back, to breath, to softness, to your phrase, and let it settle into you like honey on the tongue. Let it melt into your morning. Let it echo through your errands. Let it hum through your being until it becomes the only song you know. And when the results appear, as they will, you won't be shocked. You'll simply smile, because you'll remember. You didn't chase this. You relaxed into it. And that is why it came. It is not the words that matter most, but the being behind the words. That gentle, anchored state where you no longer reach out in desperation, but lean inward with trust. You aren't begging life to remember you. You're remembering yourself, not the self you've been taught to identify with, the struggler, the warrior, the one waiting for proof, but the quiet self that already is. You can sit in silence, no affirmation spoken aloud, and still radiate more magnetic power than 1,000 declarations shouted without belief, because it is relaxed certainty that opens the door. You might notice how easily children receive. They do not sit and plan 100 strategies for how their needs will be met. They trust simply fully that their care is inevitable, and so it is. The universe listens with the same ear, not to effort but to essence. A man once shared how he struggled for years trying every financial technique, every hustle. It was only when he stopped trying and began being that things began to move. He would lie down at night not to visualize some complicated scene, but to feel what it would be like to be someone who never had to worry again. He would breathe into that state, not asking, not commanding, just feeling it real. And within weeks a dormant investment bore fruit. A job offer he forgot he applied to came back. His world began to echo his inner stillness, because he had let go of needing the how and settled into the I am. This is the one thing, not the perfect phrase but the perfect feeling behind the phrase. I am taken care of. I am open to the flow of money. I am already who I want to be. It does not need fireworks. It does not require adrenaline. It is not a chant. It is a gentle knowing. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This knowing grows in quiet just like seeds in the earth. not rushed, not forced. And yes, there may be moments when fear rises, when old thoughts come knocking, asking for your attention. Do not push them away with violence. Do not panic. Smile, recognize them as echoes, and choose again. Return to the phrase, return to the identity, return to the state. Each time you do, you train the body to feel safe in wealth. You remind the mind that it is allowed to receive. You teach the heart how to open. Even if nothing happens today, you are shifting the foundation beneath everything. You are tuning yourself to a higher law where money comes not as a reward for struggle but as a mirror of inner rest. So let it come. Let the new version of you speak one sentence with meaning, and trust that the world will rearrange itself around that vibration. And when it does, when money arrives with ease, do not be surprised. You were never chasing the money. You were becoming the one who naturally receives it. And then there's that quiet moment where the world hasn't changed yet. But you have. It's subtle. No trumpet sounds. No lightning strikes. Just a shift inside, like a river deciding to change direction. You feel different, lighter, less interested in watching the clock or calculating how and when the money will come. You've moved from chasing to choosing. This is when the law begins to move. Invisible but certain, like seeds beneath winter soil. Quiet but becoming. It is written, let the weak say I am strong. Joel 3:10, not once they feel it, not once the evidence arrives, but now as a claim, as a stance, as an act of creation. Say it, I am rich. Let the words feel like silk across your tongue. Let them taste real even if your bank account disagrees. For your words are not describing reality, they are assigning it. They are calling things that be not as though they were. This is not lying. This is living from the end. And yes, doubt may return, like a guest you forgot to lock the door against. It will whisper questions. But what if it doesn't happen? What if I'm deluding myself? What if I need to be doing more? But here's the truth. It's not the words that create. It's the feeling behind them. Your job is not to force belief. Your job is to relax into it. To say the one thing with ease, not tension. To say it in the morning, when your mind is soft. To say it at night, as your body surrenders to sleep. To let it become like breath, quiet and conscious and constant. A man once said, I began repeating, I always have more than enough every time I'd worry. Not to drown the worry, but to rise above it. Within a month the debt's cleared. My side hustle turned full time, and I noticed I no longer needed the money. It just came. That's the mystery. When you stop needing, you start receiving. When you stop gripping, it flows. Because money, like water, resists pressure. It moves toward ease, and ease begins when you stop trying to believe, and start feeling as if it's already true. Try this now. Close your eyes. Picture your favorite place, somewhere that makes you feel peaceful, safe. Now imagine yourself there, and money is no longer a question. It's solved. You're free. The numbers in your account are high, so high you don't check them anymore. The bills, handled. The desires, met. What do you feel like here? Not what do you do, but how does your chest feel? Your breath, your posture. Hold that for just a few seconds longer, because this is the real one thing. It's not a sentence. It's a state. The words only serve to lead you into the state. And once you're there, you become magnetic. Not metaphorically, but energetically. Your world reorganizes itself around your new assumption. Not because God was finally convinced to bless you, but because you finally stopped blocking the blessing. So say the words again if you like, but this time let them emerge from stillness. Let them feel like home. I am already supported. Money comes to me with ease. This is who I am now. And if tomorrow feels wobbly, if the doubt returns, if impatience knocks, just smile. You're not failing. You're forming. It's not a setback. It's a sign you're shedding the old. Stay soft, stay surrendered, and keep saying the one thing until you no longer say it. You live it. It only takes one ember to light the whole forest. One shift in identity, and the world bends to meet it. Not through striving, not through a checklist of perfect thoughts, but through surrender. Because the truth isn't complicated. The truth is still. It doesn't yell to convince you. It waits with love, with power, with certainty. And that one thing you've been repeating, it's no longer just a phrase, it's a frequency. It's the tone your being hums in. You speak it, yes, but you also walk it. Breathe it, sleep inside of it. And the world notices, not in dramatic fireworks, but in strange, delightful synchronicities. You think of a bill and a refund arrives. You desire to travel, and someone offers a place to stay. You wonder how, and life says, watch this. This is what it means to be in alignment. Not effort, not tension, not hustle masked as faith, but flow, faith embodied. There's a quiet knowing that comes when you finally stop wrestling with what is. you begin to see that the delay wasn't denial, it was preparation. The time you thought was wasted, it made you ready, ready to receive, ready to believe, ready to relax. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. Matthew 25:29. It's not about deserving, it's about having, feeling the state of possession before it shows up, owning the inner first, and letting the outer be a faithful mirror. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you assume. An assumption is not loud or dramatic, it's subtle, it's lived. It's the way you tie your shoes when you know you're wealthy. It's the way you tip, smile, rest, as someone who lacks nothing. Now listen closely, because this may be the most important part. You don't have to be perfect to receive. You don't have to be high vibe 24/7. You don't have to meditate for an hour or script until your hand cramps. You only have to feel it long enough to become it, to get familiar with the version of you that no longer needs to prove or pursue, the you who already is. And when you slip, when fear creeps back in, that's okay, that's human. The power isn't in never falling. The power is in how quickly you remember. Remember who you are. Remember the one thing. Say it with gentleness. Say it as a lullaby. Say it when you're brushing your teeth. Say it when you're walking to the store. I already am the one who has. That's it. Not a trick, not a gimmick, a return. Because the law of assumption responds not to need, but to being. And every time you choose that identity, you're sending out a ripple. And those ripples, they don't vanish. They multiply. They meet you. They carry the money, the opportunities, the clients, the clarity. So yes, say the words. Say them until they become your home, until the echo of lack is replaced by the stillness of certainty, until your inner world grows louder than the outer, and you look around, not shocked but smiling, as the money rushes in, not because you chased it, but because you became it. And in that moment, not later, not someday, you realize it was never about the words, it was never about the world, it was always about the state. And now you're in it, you're resting in the truth, you're relaxed, you're receiving, you're rich. Sleep in that knowing tonight, and tomorrow wake up inside the life that's already yours. When you begin to feel lack pressing against you like cold wind on bare skin, do not resist it. Do not argue with the storm. Simply turn inward and wrap yourself in the feeling of abundance, like a warm coat that already fits. Because money is not earned, it is allowed. It responds not to effort but to your concept of self. You receive what you believe you're entitled to, what you believe is normal. And so the one thing you say, this sacred sentence you return to again and again, it is not a wish, it is a declaration of your new nature. I am wealthy now, not will be, not one day. Now, you say it not because your wallet is full, but because your spirit is. You say it because you're willing to abandon the old identity of the struggler, the seeker, the almost there. This is the great shedding, the crossing of the Red Sea, the moment you walk away from Egypt, not a place but a mindset. And yes, sometimes your thoughts will rebel. They'll throw stones. They'll mock the new assumption, like Goliath mocking David. But feeling is the sling, and belief is the stone. You don't have to argue with the giants in your mind. You simply feel from the victory. You see the money in your hand. Feel the softness of the bills, the numbers in the account, the gratitude swelling in your chest. Not someday. Now, because faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Let that verse hold you tonight. Let it whisper to the parts of you that still wait for proof. Let it remind you that your imagination is the evidence. It is not fiction, it is formation. A woman once wrote, I repeated a simple phrase each morning before I checked my phone. I am magnetic to miracles, especially financial ones. And though I felt silly at first, within 2 weeks I was offered a job I never applied for. More money, less hours, and remote. I had only changed my tone, my inner atmosphere. She didn't force the outside, she tuned the inside. She relaxed. That is the secret Neville gave us, and it has never changed. Feeling is the key, not logic, not hustle, feeling. And the words you choose are the doors. You open them not with volume, but with conviction. So speak it again now, slowly, gently. I am already wealthy. I am supported. Money flows to me when I rest in the truth of who I am. Let that truth find the cracks inside you. Let it pour into the dry places, the tight places, the anxious corners of your being. There is no emergency. There is no delay. There is only resistance to receive. But even resistance isn't a problem. It's just a shadow of the old self, slowly dissolving in the light of a new story. So let go of timelines. Let go of comparison. Let go of wondering how others are doing it. Come back to your phrase. Come back to your power. You are not waiting. You are becoming. And in becoming, you allow the flow. The whisper doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't even need to be clever. It only needs to be felt. That one thing you say, it's not a magic word. It's a tuning fork. It vibrates you back into alignment, where all you desire already exists. Most people speak from fear, not realizing their words are prayers. They declare lack, then wonder why they're surrounded by it. But your power lies in quiet reversal, not arguing with reality, but replacing it within. You don't fix a mirror by wiping the reflection. You change what's standing in front of it. The world is your mirror, and your feeling, your assumption, is what it reflects. A man once wrote, "I used to say I'm broke," as if it were my name. Then I heard Neville say, "Don't say what you don't want to be true." So I began to say instead, "Money flows to me like breath, naturally and without effort." He said it when it felt false. He said it when the bills were stacked. He said it when he had to borrow rent. And eventually he said it with a quiet smile, because it was true. Money did begin to flow. New opportunities, side gigs, referrals. They came without him forcing, because he changed what he called himself. He no longer identified with the problem. He embodied the solution. I am the one who always has enough. It doesn't matter if your bank balance says otherwise. It matters how deeply you know it will change, because imagination is causation, and feeling is the bridge. If you need a Bible verse, take this one gently into your spirit. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. Not just what he thinks, but what he feels to be true, in his heart, in the quiet chamber of belief where no one can see but God. That's where your world begins. Not in the doing, but in the being. You may be tempted to ask, how long will it take? But time bends to faith. It isn't about minutes or months. It's about how real you allow the dream to feel now. Relax. That's the hidden key in all of this. You don't manifest through clenched fists or worried eyes. You manifest through surrender. When you relax, you open. When you open, you receive. And when you receive, you no longer chase. You attract. Let go of the how. Let go of watching the clock. Let go of trying to impress the universe with perfect technique. Your authenticity is the signal. When a child believes a parent's promise, they don't ask twice. They run off and play, trusting the thing will come. This is how you must be. Not naive, but certain. Speak your phrase like a lullaby. Let it rock your nervous system into peace. Let it wrap around your inner child and remind them that safety is here, that supply is here, that all is well. It's not about pretending you're rich. It's about knowing you are provided for deeply, spiritually, endlessly. And if the thoughts rise up, am I doing this right? Why hasn't it worked yet? Just smile. Those are echoes of the old self, testing your conviction. Let them pass like wind through trees. Return to your sentence. Return to yourself. Return to your knowing. I always receive what I need, sometimes before I even ask. Say it again. Not to convince the world, but to convince your inner world. Because when that world changes, everything else must follow, as within, so without. When you say it, this one thing, you are not casting a spell. You are peeling back the veil. You're not trying to create wealth. You're remembering that it already exists within you. This is the subtle shift that makes all the difference. The anxious mind shouts, how much longer must I wait? But the quiet soul knows I already am. You are not preparing for the blessing, you are the blessing. And money simply meets you where you've arrived. Not physically, but emotionally. That is why the feeling matters. Not the words, not the effort, but the stillness underneath them. There is a kind of sacred laziness in true abundance. You are not working to deserve. You are relaxing into awareness. Like a river that never strains to flow, it just is because it knows where it's going. Neville taught, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not the thinking, not the pretending, the feeling. It must feel natural to you. Not grand, not exaggerated, but normal. Normal to be free. Normal to be safe. Normal to open your bank account and see more than enough. So when you say the words, when you affirm money is always finding me, you say it as if you were describing the weather, simple, soft and true. Not with tension, not with hope, but with certainty. Even if your circumstances scream otherwise, you let the dream be more real than the doubt. That is the discipline of the awakened imagination. Not force, but faith. One woman wrote of her experience. She had been scraping by month after month, counting coins, rationing groceries. She found Neville's lectures late one night and tried something small. Not a technique, just a change in inner language. She whispered before sleep, thank you, thank you, thank you, because I am always taken care of. No visualization, no mental theater, just that sentence. Soft, repeated, felt. Within the week, her former client emailed her, asking if she could consult on a project. The fee was triple her usual rate. Then another request followed, and then another. Not because she worked harder, not because she networked more, but because she stopped chasing and started receiving. She told no one. She changed nothing externally, but something inside her had shifted. The inner thermostat of worth was set higher, and the world, as it always does, responded. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Matthew 7:7. Not strive, not struggle, just ask, just knock, just assume that it is done. There will be days when your mind tries to slip back into the old groove of worry. Let it, then gently bring it home. This is a practice of return, of reminding, of relaxing. You may not see evidence today. That's okay. The seed doesn't sprout on command, but it always grows when kept in the soil of belief. So keep planting, keep relaxing, keep speaking that one phrase that brings you back to center. I am already blessed. I am the one who money loves. I don't chase, I attract. Let it feel like truth dripping gently into your subconscious. And when you lie down at night, when the world is quiet, and you are still, say it again. Say it for the you who once doubted. Say it for the you who's becoming. Say it because it's who you are now. And let the money come rushing, not as proof, but as a reflection. And if doubt returns, as it often does in quiet moments, don't fight it. Observe it. It's not your enemy. It's just a leftover echo from an old chapter, one you're no longer writing. You are not the doubt. You are the awareness behind it. And that awareness is divine. Remember, what you feel consistently, you become effortlessly. You do not have to convince yourself with effort, only with feeling. A woman once shared her shift. She had tried every prosperity challenge, every list, every chant, but she was exhausted. So she stopped. She stopped striving and began listening. In the morning before her coffee, she would sit still for 5 minutes, just 5. And she'd whisper one phrase, I am already cared for. At first she felt silly, because in her bank account nothing had changed. But in her heart, there was a softening. Within weeks, she felt less urgency, less pressure. She made a casual call to an old friend, which led to a freelance offer. That turned into a retainer. And soon after, she received an inheritance she didn't even know was pending. Her one phrase didn't make it happen. It aligned her to the version of herself who no longer resisted the receiving. She let go of needing to prove and relaxed into the truth of being. That's the secret no one talks about. You don't manifest with frantic energy. You manifest with relaxed conviction. You don't beg reality to bend. You become the person for whom reality already bends. Because the law is simple. It gives you not what you want in desperation, but what you feel in trust. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Psalm 37:4. It begins with delight, not discipline, not struggle. Delight. Can you enjoy the feeling before the form appears? Can you speak your one thing, not to rush the result, but to remember who you are? When you say money flows to me with ease, say it like it's a sigh of truth, not a cry for help. Say it in the tone of I already know, because deep down you do. You knew it the first time you were paid for something that felt effortless. You knew it when someone gifted you something you didn't expect. You knew it when life felt strangely, quietly kind to you, just when you needed it. And in those moments you weren't reaching, you were receiving. That's the essence of this message. You don't have to get the money. You let it come to you by being the one who knows it already is. Imagine this. You walk through your day with the weight gone, no longer asking, how long will it take, but affirming it's unfolding now. You sip your tea slower. You smile at the small things. You act from worth, not from need. And in that shift, money no longer feels like a stranger. It feels like a friend returning home. Let that be your practice tonight. Not more effort, not more affirmations shouted into the void. Just one phrase said with your heart wide open. I am already supported. Feel what that would mean if it were true. Let it rest in you. Let it grow, and let the world rearrange itself to mirror what you finally accepted within. Some nights the mind will resist. It will say, but look, nothing's changed. It will point to numbers on a screen, to bills unopened, to promises broken in the past. Don't argue with it. You are not required to convince the storm. You are only required to remain still within it. Return to the inner sanctuary, that sacred place where truth whispers, not through logic, but through knowing. Money does not come to those who chase. It comes to those who rest in worth. The anxious self says, what if it doesn't work? The aligned self says, even now unseen, it's working. And you'll feel the difference, not in words but in breath, a loosening, a softness behind the eyes. That's the sign. You are no longer trying to control the outcome. You are allowing the truth to carry you. A man once wrote to Neville. He had been on the brink of losing everything. Clients vanished, Debts mounted. His faith trembled. One night he sat up in bed and said aloud, "Thank you, Father, that money flows through me like breath." He did not believe it fully. He felt silly. But he said it with affection, like you might sing a lullaby to a scared child, not because it's factual, but because it's comforting. He repeated it each morning, not with desperation, but with rhythm, not as a plea, but as a remembering. Within days, a check arrived from a company that had long closed its books. A refund. Then came a referral, then an invitation to speak. It wasn't the words alone, it was the relaxed identity behind the words. He stopped trying to become someone and began expressing who he already was. The kingdom of God cometh not with observation, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:20. 21. There is no outside to go and get, no finish line to reach, only a self to return to, again and again. And that self is always enough. You've seen flashes of it. Those quiet mornings when you feel strangely content, even before the day has proven itself. Those moments when you forget to worry, and something beautiful arrives. It's not coincidence, it's alignment. So what if your only task now was not to figure it all out, but to relax into the version of you that already has? She exists. He lives within you now. The one who says, "I'm not waiting for abundance, I'm welcoming it." Feel the difference. Welcoming requires no effort. It requires a heart that's open, a mind that's less interested in how, and more faithful to now. So say your phrase tonight, whatever variation speaks to your soul. I am already provided for. Money finds me with ease. Everything I need is drawn to me now. Say it gently. Say it like you already know. Say it like you're smiling to yourself in the dark, and let the world bend quietly to meet your surrender. The moment you release the grip, the current finds you. Money, like breath, doesn't need to be chased, only received. And the softest receiver is the most powerful one. Let's not pretend it's always easy. You've been trained to respond with tension, to meet uncertainty with panic, to think that urgency is a virtue. But what if the stillest part of you knows the way? You've seen it in glimpses when you stopped refreshing the inbox, and the message came. When you gave up trying to force a reply, and someone texted, "I don't know why, but I thought of you." These aren't coincidences. They are confirmations. The universe does not need you to hustle harder. It needs you to believe more softly. A young man once said, he tried every affirmation, visualized till his eyes hurt, and still nothing changed. But then he asked himself, have I truly felt what I say, or am I just repeating words from fear? He shifted. Instead of saying, "I am rich," while panicking over bills, he whispered, "Money loves me, and it's okay if I don't feel it yet. I'm still worthy." And he felt the truth of that, even just a little. That night he slept deeply for the first time in weeks, and within days a refund came. Then a random freelance gig. Then a call that turned into something bigger than he imagined. He didn't change the words. He changed the feeling. Because it's never the sentence alone, it's the spirit beneath it. You could say, "I attract wealth 1,000 times," but if you say it from lack, you're just echoing the void. Say it from trust, and the earth itself will bend to meet you. For verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, "Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea," and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. Mark 11:23. So say it gently, not with force but with presence. Say it in the language of your body. Relax your shoulders, loosen your jaw, let your breath return to its natural rhythm. Because when you are relaxed, you are most receptive. You stop being the doer and become the channel. Money doesn't want to rescue you. It wants to dance with you, and dancing cannot happen in tension. So breathe. Place your attention on the feeling of being supported. Let your imagination cradle you. See the deposits arrive. The hands shaking in gratitude, the smiles from strangers turned clients. Let your inner world swell with the emotion of having already received. That is your true currency, not dollars or figures, but the inner state that magnetizes them. The old self might still whisper, "It's not happening fast enough." That's okay. You don't argue with shadows, you turn on the light, and the light is found in the softness of knowing. Knowing that nothing is being withheld, knowing that it's already done, knowing that it rushes to meet you, as you return to being yourself, not the worried version, not the performer, the real you, unburdened, at peace, open. Say your one thing again, but this time say it like a lullaby. Say it as if the version of you that already has it is whispering back, because maybe you're not attracting it at all. Maybe you're just remembering what was always yours. There's a moment quiet, unremarkable, when the words you've been saying shift from hope to knowing. At first you whisper them like a spell. half believing, testing, waiting. But then something subtle changes. You say it not to make it happen, but because you know it has. That's when the soil turns fertile. A man once said the phrase, I am already rich. My world just hasn't caught up yet. And he meant it, not as a trick, but as a remembering. He didn't check his bank account afterward. He didn't look for signs. He walked differently, held himself with softness, left extra tips with joy, and within a month a forgotten business deal, one that had fallen silent for over a year, suddenly revived. They tripled the offer, and more followed. It's not that the universe responded to his words. It responded to the relaxed confidence behind them, the letting go of panic, the end of bargaining. You cannot pretend abundance into your life. You must embody it. Feel how natural it is to be supported. Let wealth stop being this distant stranger and start feeling like an old friend who always shows up right when you need them most. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. And what is the one thing you say? That's for you to decide. It's not about the exact wording. It's the feeling it wakes up in you, the breath it softens, the shoulder it relaxes. It might be, I am the source of wealth, or money comes to me because I finally let it. Even my relaxed state is magnetic. Let your phrase melt your tension. Let it feel like exhaling after a long day. Because when you're soft, you're open. When you're open, you receive. This is not a performance. You're not trying to impress God. You are remembering you are God, expressed through form. Your imagination is divine currency. Your feelings are the signature on every spiritual check you write. So when doubt whispers, when you scroll too long, compare too much, or feel behind in a world of highlight reels, return. Say it again. Say your one thing, not to fix it, but to anchor you. You may fall off. You may forget. You may find yourself doubting again tomorrow. Good. That's part of the process. Even the most beautiful symphonies are rehearsed. Even light wavers before it settles. The question is never, did I fail? It is only ever, am I willing to return? Return to softness, to silence, to that quiet, wealthy place inside that has never needed proof, only permission. Say your one thing again, and this time feel it, not like an order, like a homecoming, and watch how reality bends, not by force, but by faith. It begins as a whisper, but grows louder when you don't fight it. You wake up one morning, and instead of racing into action, you sit still, and let the words move through you like breath. I don't chase, I attract, I allow. Not to escape the day, but to reorder it. To remember you are not the beggar, you are the blessing. The outer world, with its numbers and screens and deadlines, has tried to teach you that effort equals worth, that if you're not constantly proving, striving, chasing, you'll be forgotten. But what if it's the opposite? What if money finds you not when you're fastest, but when you're stillest? A woman once shared her story. Single mother, bills overdue, a dozen applications sent out with silence in return. Then one night, out of desperation, she surrendered the struggle. She lit a candle, closed her eyes, and said softly, everything I need is already mine. I don't need to chase it, only accept it. She fell asleep that way, peaceful, not because her problems vanished, but because she stopped resisting. The next morning, an old friend called. She'd remembered a conversation from years ago. A job offer, remote, flexible, generous. It arrived not because of perfect timing, but because of perfect surrender. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Your job is not to strain. It is to allow, to become so at ease within yourself, that money feels safe entering your life. Can you love yourself before the breakthrough, before the wire hits, before the debt clears? Because here's the secret. Money is a reflection of your self-concept. It doesn't just respond to belief. It mirrors how safe you feel receiving. And when you're tense, tight, urgent, you're signaling lack. But when you're soft, when you're grounded in the knowing that it must come, you become magnetic. Not in theory, in actual physical ways. Opportunities show up, random refunds, strangers tip more, clients appear without chasing, not because you tricked the universe, but because you finally stopped blocking it. You don't need to say the right thing. You need to feel the right thing. The one thing you speak is a portal, not to impress reality, but to step out of the old one. It is not magic. It is alignment. Say it when you're brushing your teeth. Say it when you're walking to your car. Say it while cooking dinner or folding laundry. Not because you need to remind the world, but because you're reminding yourself that you are no longer the seeker. You are the one it's seeking. And when fear creeps in, because it will, don't panic. Breathe. Place your hand on your chest and say your one thing again. Gently, lovingly, not as a demand, as a return. Let the words lead you back to the version of you who never had to earn abundance, only welcome it. Because the truth is, you already are the person your dreams belong to. They've been circling you for years, just waiting for you to relax and let them in. And when it moved, it did not knock. It didn't ask for permission. It flowed in like light through an open window, quietly, completely, as though it had always lived there. This is how money responds to consciousness. Not to panic, not to begging, but to peace. People often say, if it's so easy, why isn't it happening for me? But the question reveals the state, a self still separate from the thing it longs for. Neville once said, claim it now. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It's not logic, it's law. And law doesn't consult your past. Even if yesterday you felt broke, guilty, undeserving, today you may shift in an instant. There was a woman who worked as a cleaner, minimum wage, tired bones. She'd listened to Neville's lectures between shifts, but deep down, she still believed money belonged to others. One evening something changed. She wasn't studying anymore. She was becoming. She sat in silence and said aloud, money is how God flows through me. It is not mine to chase, but to allow. Her body relaxed. Her tears came, not from lack, but from recognition. She wasn't unworthy. She was unaware. The next day, her client, a quiet man who never said much, left her a handwritten note. It read, you've brought light into my home. I want to help you shine back. Inside the envelope was a check for $10,000. No explanation, no request, only reflection. Because what you are being is what the world becomes. According to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Not according to your labor, not your struggle, but your faith, your inner conviction that what you declare is already done. So what is the one thing you say? It is not a magic word. It is a magic place, a phrase that returns you to your truth. I am already provided for. Money flows where I feel free. I breathe in abundance. I exhale resistance. Choose your own, but make sure it brings rest, not effort. Because when you're tense, your words bounce. But when you're open, they root, and your world grows from there. Many give up because they want speed, but this is not about speed. It's about alignment. You don't ask the flower to bloom faster. You create the right soil, the right light, the right stillness. Then it happens. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. So say your one thing, not with urgency, but with reverence. Let it become your lullaby, your breath, your rhythm. And as you relax, watch the world arrange itself to prove you right. There is a softness in surrender that power never forgets, for it is not noise that moves reality, but stillness. Not the clamor of desire, but the quiet certainty of being. When you say the one thing from that place, it is not a demand, not a cry for more, but a declaration that you remember who you are. Not someone trying to become wealthy, but someone who already is, by the truth of their nature, the heir to infinite supply. So many fall into the trap of repetition without feeling, as though the number of times you say it will twist the universe's arm. But you cannot bribe God with frequency. You persuade reality with emotion. If it feels like struggle, stop, breathe, and return not to effort, but to embodiment. There's a man I once knew, who for years repeated affirmations of prosperity. He filled journals, spoke to mirrors, played audio loops as he slept, but his world did not change. It wasn't until he said one sentence, just one, from a place of total emotional surrender, that things shifted. He sat on the edge of his bed, exhaled deeply, and whispered, I no longer chase, because I already have. And something clicked. It wasn't the words. It was the moment his soul finally believed them. Within 2 weeks, he received an offer from a business partner he hadn't spoken to in years. It turned into a 6-figure opportunity. And from that day on, he never forced again. He spoke little, but he felt much. And feeling is the seed of form. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37:4. Delight, not desperation. Desires, not demands. If money hasn't arrived yet, don't ask harder. Relax deeper. Ask, am I embodying the one who already has? Am I holding on to an old story with clenched fists? Or am I allowing space for the new to land? It's never about the saying. It's always about the being. The one thing you say, your phrase of power, should feel like silk on your skin, not iron in your throat. It should relax your body, unclench your heart, and open a space for knowing. This is why it works best at night. When the noise dies down, when no one is asking for your time, when the world outside goes to sleep, and the kingdom within wakes up. In that space, You say it once, softly, sincerely, and then fall into the feeling. Let imagination take it from there. Picture yourself receiving, not with sparkles and explosions, but with simplicity. See your hand writing the check. Feel the warmth of gratitude in your chest. Taste the relief of being cared for. Always. Do not rush. Do not explain. You are not asking. You are returning. And the riches respond. Because what you seek was never far. It waited behind your effort, behind your trying, behind the noise, and the moment you rested, it moved.